Okay. Good morning, everyone. I thought we had intro music, but maybe not today.
I don't have walk-in music, huh?
Some Metallica or something.
I know, right?
Good morning. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to ACEDS Data Unmasked, streaming live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. My name is Mike Quartararo. I'm the president of ACEDS. Today, we're going to be joined by Adam Rubinger. I think he's actually already with us. From Haystack. Adam works with Haystack's corporate clients on their e-discovery team, providing guidance, consultation, advice in all areas of the e-discovery process from collections to productions. He is highly involved in most aspects of the portfolio work of the company, and he works at all levels within the organization. Given both his legal and technical background, he is an excellent liaison between the Haystack team, the client, and their outside counsel. Haystack, of course, is a professional services organization that provides e-discovery, information governance, and cybersecurity services in the legal sector. You can visit HaystackID.com for more information about their offerings. Haystack is also a valued partner of ACEDS, and we'd like to showcase what our partners are doing for the e-discovery community, talk with industry leaders like Adam to discuss some of the latest trends in the industry and what Haystack's been up to. Let's get into it. Adam, thank you for making time to join us today.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. I always like to start with a little about you. For those who don't know, tell us a little about yourself, how you found your way into e-discovery.
Well, about 100 years ago, I graduated law school, and as we were talking about earlier, decided that I didn't want to practice law, actually, and I started a scan and code business. I had been in the mid-90s working on some cases as a law clerk, and thought there must be a better way than going to a warehouse and looking through bankers' boxes and, you know, having, hundreds and hundreds of bankers' boxes and tons of paper cuts, and, was kind of a nerdy tech guy, was always interested in computers, as a kid, and thought, I knew about document scanning and I knew about databases, being, a bit of a programmer, and tried to start a business. And in the mid 90s, there were, a handful of companies that did scan and code, and, really cut my teeth, just not only starting a business, but getting into a new sort of field of support for the legal system. And I wanted to, be involved in legal. I thought, I spent all this money on a law degree. Why wouldn't I want to, do something to pay to pay off those loans and have something to do with the law? And so I did that. And, from there, it sort of evolved into e-discovery, and, it was sort of just discovery back then. And then it turned to e-discovery in the early 2000s. And I worked for a number of, e-discovery providers and software providers throughout the years, but I've mainly spent my career, working in the service provider side, providing services to corporations, to law firms, dealing with lawyers. And, it's something that I think we all kind of fell into this industry. And I think people nowadays are more focused on, is this an industry I want to get into, versus we just sort of fell into it and kind of watched it grow over the years.
And so tell our listeners today, tell us a little bit about what a chief client experience officer does. Tell us about your role at Haystack and what sort of a day in the life is like for you.
Man, if only you could walk a mile in my shoes. I spend most of my days working with our clients on some of the more complex matters, on a day-to-day basis, ensuring that our teams have the resources they need to complete the tasks that they're being asked to complete, working with counsel, both in-house and outside counsel, to ensure that, the work that our team is doing is aligning with the requirements of the matter, with the requirements of best practice, to try and create efficiencies. I do a lot of consulting around how are clients leveraging both our teams and our technologies to get the best outcomes, right? Outcomes are the things that they're most interested in, and everyone's interested in saving money and being more efficient and utilizing tools that will allow them to do that. So I spend a lot of time, on the phone, in groups with outside counsel, in-house counsel, lit support teams, just kind of talking through, what we're seeing from other clients, how to best utilize technologies, and working through problems, right? Data's can be challenging, and every company has different data sources and different data types and different ways in which they collect data, and working with them, to again leverage the technologies in a way that allows them to best create those efficiencies and cost savings, is something that we really focus on. I also spend a lot of time with my clients looking at just sort of their portfolio holistically. Are they buying it in the right way? Do they have the right program in place? Do they have a program in place? Are they sending data to 20 different sources, and are they looking to consolidate? We talk about best practices around portfolio management. Are they letting cases sit around forever, or are they really on top of managing their data? We talk about how to, again, best leverage maybe reuse of data, reuse of technology, different ways in which they can, utilize things from not just a project level, but across their matters. We talk a lot about that. We also fight fires, right? Things don't always go perfectly in e-discovery, as anyone in e-discovery knows. I spend a lot of my time, working with clients to try and get out of problems if there are problems, trying to work through, solutions that, maybe something we saw in another case that we can apply to this case for this client, is, really what I do. And then from a leadership perspective, I spend a lot of time with our leadership, just sort of discussing what our clients are looking for, what new technologies are out there, how we can best sort of look forward and create some strategies that will, achieve all the goals of clients being satisfied and happy and efficient, and us, doing well as a business.
It sounds a lot like heavy dose of scope management with risk containment, cost controls, and change management thrown in.
Yes. You said it much more succinctly than I did, but yes, that is
But
exactly what I
I
do
have this
every day.
project management brain, and I can't get
Yeah,
away
I
from it no
know,
matter what
I
I try
know.
to do.
And,
Um,
and I'm also, a liaison between, our operations team and our clients. So in some cases, I'm advocating for our team, and in others, I'm advocating for our clients. And sometimes it's challenging to sort of juggle the fact that I work for a company, but I'm trying to put my client's best interest, at heart, and at the forefront, and try to, really make sure that our clients are getting what they need from our teams, and that our teams are able to support them in the way that they need to be supported.
yeah. So you mentioned law school, and I think one of the more interesting things I've been talking, certainly with students about, is
Mhm.
alternative careers. And you mentioned why you sort of entered the industry you entered, and how and
Mhm.
why. Is, in your view, is that a viable alternative to being a first year associate at one of these big firms?
I think now more than ever, there are more opportunities for law students, graduating law students, to seek careers that can leverage their education and the training they've received in law school. Law school isn't about just memorizing the laws and applying it. It's how do you think? How do you solve problems? How do you, and how do you get to solutions? How do you, it really trains you how to be a thinker and how to be a critical thinker. And that is something that has carried me throughout my career. As you know, I haven't practiced law. I'm not. So the day I graduated law school, I started a business, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I clerked at law firms all 3 years of law school, and just kind of decided that wasn't really the path that I wanted to go down. I think there's so many opportunities for law students to leverage their education and their training, to go off into the workforce in so many different ways, from working for the government to working for corporations in-house to working for service providers and getting involved in the lit support side of things. You know, and I graduated with law school with tons of folks who just wanted the education and decided to go off and, you know, be stockbrokers and accountants and continue their education. I had one friend who decided he wanted to go to medical school after graduating law school. So there's lots of different ways that I think people can leverage the training and the expertise that they gain in law school to do a ton of other things.
So you've had this sort of storied career in e-discovery going back 25. I'm dating us both here.
28, 28 years.
and you were at Night Owl. You worked through a merger with Haystack,
Mhm.
and now you're in this chief client experience role. What's, considering where you've come from, what's the best part of your job today?
Honestly, it's bifurcated between and let me step back. The things that I look for in a job, and I have always done this in my career, is I want to work at a place that appreciates what I offer, that is fun, that has really great people, that people understand the mission, and everyone's working towards that mission. Those are things that I look for in a job and in a career. And, you know, it's something that I've definitely found at Haystack and Night Owl. And I've always taken great relationships with me, with my coworkers and my clients, because again, those sort of tenets of having fun and doing great work that means something and being appreciated is something that's super important to me. And it's something that I always look for and always advise people, you know, when they're looking for a new job. You know, my first question is, you know, what kind of culture are you looking for? You look, you know, culture is important. So for me, the best part of my job is, number one, the people that I work with. I really enjoy the people that I work with. They lift me up. I lift them up. We work together. We collaborate. We're teams. And when you're doing that, and when you're having fun, and when you're doing all those things, usually you have really good and happy clients, right? Like they see that, they pick up on that, they understand that, you know, you have a good culture and you have good, you know, working relationships both with them as clients and with your teammates. That's super important to me. And then the second piece, I think, is the clients themselves. You know, getting to know people, helping them with their problems, helping them with their solutions. You know, we talk about problems, but not everything's a problem in e-discovery, as I've come to learn. And you know, when you have triumphs, there's nothing better, right? When you get a project that's done on time and in budget and everyone's happy, there's no better feeling in the world. For me as a chief client officer, you know, my job is to make sure our clients are well taken care of and are happy and have a really good experience. And that's something that, you know, I found not every company really sees that and takes that embrace of, we want to create a culture where our clients are happy and our employees are happy. And thankfully, I've found that in my company currently. And you know, we have amazing relationships with clients, and our clients are friends. You know, I've befriended many clients who, you know, I'll call on the weekends, I'll call in the evenings, we'll text each other. That's the best part for me, is having those relationships and getting to know their families and you know, seeing them on the conference circuit. Those are really just, you know, some of the best times of my career, and working with, you know, people, you know, from all walks of life is something. I'm a people person. I love, you know, getting to know people. And you know, it's one of the reasons why I didn't want to necessarily be a lawyer. And my experience with sitting in a warehouse looking through paper just, you know, wasn't my really cup of tea. So I
You
feel like
could
I've
not
I've
have
landed in the right spot.
you could not have set up the next question more perfectly, because we work in an industry where um, sometimes we have to make some tough calls, some tough decisions, difficult conversations. As someone who's sort of built these deep relationships over time, what advice do you have for individuals who need to have these kind of difficult conversations, particularly with clients?
Mm.
How would you advise folks to sort of go about these conversations?
Yeah. I always say you should be open, honest, and transparent. Um, the reality is people want to know what's going on, right? Good or bad. The last thing, and the one thing I will tell you, every single client of mine tells me when I first engage with them and first start working with them and sort of have conversations about how we'd like to do work together, is they don't want to be surprised, and they want the truth, and they want honesty. And I've always sort of advised my team to be transparent and honest. I think a client would take, sort of falling on the sword and being truthful about what's going on, and if we've made mistakes or we've made errors, to own it and take responsibility for it, and most importantly, work through it together, right, collaboratively.
Mm.
The worst thing you can do is try to hide something and get away with something, if you will. I think clients are, and people are, smarter than that, and understand, especially if they have experience in the industry. Just be straight, be honest, be transparent. We did this. This is what happened. We're obviously apologetic about it. Didn't anticipate it. But here's what we're going to do to solve it. And most importantly, here's what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Right? They want
Right.
that you need to be able to, understand the problem, have that difficult conversation, and then articulate, what we're going to do about it and how we're going to prevent it from happening again. That's always, led me in the right direction. And I think people appreciate it, when you're honest and transparent, even if it's bad news. I mean, sometimes bad news can not be overcome, right?
Right.
If it's that egregious. But I've always found that I sleep better, and our company, has that philosophy that, we want to treat our clients well, and be straight with our clients and give them the best possible service we can, um, and be honest.
And
And it's not easy. Those conversations are awful, especially with, people that are good friends, right? Like, I have good friends that I have to tell them my company and my team have put you in a bad position, and you and your career. And I acknowledge that, and I empathize, and sympathize with them in every way possible. And it's the last thing you want to have to do is call a friend and tell them I have bad news, and something happened and it's going to impact you. And having that empathy and the knowledge that these are people, right, and they have families and they have careers that they're trying to improve, and delivering bad news is never good, but do it with candor and honesty, and usually it'll lead you in the right direction. At least your moral compass is pointing north.
so I imagine, Adam, that you're managing a team of people. How would you describe your leadership style?
um, I personally like to trust. It's sort of the trust but verify, right? Like, I want to give people the opportunity to drive their own careers, right? I'm really not much of a person who tells people how to do their job. And if people don't know how to do their job, I'll definitely help them try to figure out how to do their job. But I'm not a micromanager. I'm not someone who looks over anyone's shoulder. And frankly, I think people strive to do their best, and actually do their best when they have to figure things out themselves. It's sort of the teach them to fish instead of fish for 'em philosophy. I give people a really long rope to go out and venture off the cliff, and see if they can make it back up. And usually with some oversight, there are guardrails in place. But personally, I like to put people in a position to you know do their own thing, and figure it out themselves, and give them some guidance here and there. But I personally hate being micromanaged, and don't have the jobs that I've had in my career where I was micromanaged didn't last long, because I
Mm.
wasn't happy, and it didn't really take advantage of my strengths. And I think when you give people the opportunity to figure things out for themselves, they draw upon their strengths. And I've always been someone who, when I'm doing a one-on-one with someone and giving feedback, you know, I think the time you can spend focusing on your strengths instead of trying to repair or improve your weaknesses, you're going to get much better results, I think. And so I always look for people who have strengths that can be leveraged in the position they're in. And when we do interviews and we talk to people, I don't, I generally try to just get to know them as people to see, are they hard workers? Are they dedicated? Do they understand the tech? Do they, have a brain in their head? And if they do, then I kind of, tell them, here's the job, here's what is expected. Go figure out how it's going to play to your strengths, right? How is it
Right.
going to, how are you going to be successful in this? And if you need help and direction, I'll give it. But from a leadership perspective, I think you're going to get far more pride of ownership from someone who kind of figures it out on their own, and gives some level of satisfaction that, hey, I figured this out, and now I'm excelling because I'm using my strengths.
Good advice. Good advice. All right, let's talk a little bit more macro and a lot of change going on in the space today.
Yeah.
What's trending for you? What's hot? What gets you out of bed? And how are you and the team at Haystack staying ahead of the
Yeah.
change?
Besides my dog getting me out of bed, which she is really good, really good at waking me up at 5:30 in the morning to go to the bathroom. I honestly, it's hard not to think about AI. I mean, it's been around for a while. We've had TAR and we've had different technologies that use machine learning, if you will. But the new generative AI models, the chat GPTs, are really hard to not focus on, right? We've started doing proof of concepts with some technologies in this space and are seeing some pretty impressive results. I think it's going to transform our industry from a evolutionary perspective. I don't think it's going to, put everyone out of a job and all of a sudden, computers are going to be handling everything. It
Right.
still requires people to be smart and understand how the technology works and understand how to create inputs for the technology. I think that we're going to see over the next couple of years a pretty big transformation in terms of being able to utilize these kinds of tools, um, augmented by people, right? I think you're going to find more people who understand how prompting works and and understand what the new process is going to look like. And if you take document review specifically and privilege review specifically, those are the two areas that I think in the e-discovery space people are going to be focusing on over the next couple of years. I think it's going to create some really interesting opportunities. And to think back to your question about law students, my own daughter is 24 and she just graduated college, and she's asking me, you know, she's thinking about a career in marketing. And the first thing I told her was, you have to be proficient in AI. You have to. And I have a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old. Yes, I'm old. I've told both of them they need to do that. So they've both gone to, there's some online learnings and online certification courses out there for AI. And you'll see on LinkedIn, a bunch of people are getting AI certified from Google, from Microsoft, Copilot, from IBM has an essentials in AI, certification course that you can take. I would encourage any law student coming out of law school to get proficient with AI, because you're going to have to learn how to use it in your practice, whether you're in-house, whether you're with a vendor, whether you're with a law firm. Those that do will, I think, excel greatly. And those who are proficient and really good at it, I think are going to even climb higher on the chain of their careers. I think that, we're going to see a lot of transitions for people who've been in the industry for a long time. All of a sudden, I'm going to have to learn how to, engage in AI based, support for legal services. I think everyone's going to have to understand it at a conceptual level. And I think those who, are going to really support it from a tactical perspective are going to have to really get into the technology to understand, what's going to be going forward. sort of best practice using these technologies. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be a really big chasm between, using the technology and being really great at using the technology. If you've ever tried ChatGPT on your own, and if you've ever watched YouTube videos, and there are hundreds of thousands of them on how to prompt these engines. And they go from super basic, what looks like keyword search, to literally training the system to, tell you how to prompt, right? Like you can tell the AI, you're an AI prompt specialist. Please ask me 50 questions on, how to best prompt for these kinds of scenarios. And, there are so many interesting and creative ways that you can use AI. And I think that in our space, we're going to see those who really understand the prompt engineering being super successful at creating really high recall rates, really high precision rates, really great outcomes for doc review in e-discovery using these tools. And, it's brand new, right? We're all just starting to play with it and figure it out. But it's hard not to ignore that as sort of the big sea change that's going to come, from an e-discovery's perspective, let alone, contract analysis, contract writing, brief writing, all the things that lawyers are doing with words really can be impacted by AI. And I think that's actually going to be true across a lot of industries. A lot of intellectual based, corporate workers are going to, I suspect, it's going to be in the next couple of years, corporations, when they onboard a new employee who's a thought employee, someone who uses a computer, uses their brain, isn't doing manual services, will have to have some kind of training with AI.
Yeah,
I think it's the future, and it's no surprise, and it's something that we're all going to have to kind of figure out. And I think much like TAR, much like predictive coding was 10 years ago, I think it's going to take a bit for the legal industry to really accept it and adopt it, and the courts to be okay with it. And it's really, I think, going to transition sort of how we go about doing e-discovery work, how we go about, culling, and how we go about doing doc review. It's going to be expensive upfront, much like predictive coding was 10 years ago. But those prices, I think, are going to come down, over time, and it'll become sort of the norm, that we're going to be using these kinds of tools both at the time of creation of data, right? Microsoft Copilot, they're investing huge in Copilot, and Google's investing huge in Gemini, and Facebook with Llama. There's a lot of different, AI technologies out there. And anyone with a computer, frankly, can have an AI, on their computer. And just saw Apple's announcement that they're really going to be integrating AI into their next iPhone and iOS versions. And I think you're going to start seeing that from Google. It's going to really create a pretty evolutionary change in how much more efficient and how much better we will get at our jobs, I think.
I agree. All right, we're almost out of time. But before we go, I always like to ask, what do you got coming up? Industry events? What are you excited about for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so we're sponsoring the International Data Law Forum in The Hague next month. The following month, we're at ILTA. And then we've got a bunch of conferences, EDI and Georgetown, and a few of the others, coming up throughout the remainder of the year. I love going to conferences. They're great opportunity to meet people and learn about what people are thinking about and talking about. Also, one of the fun parts of my job is being able to go and meet clients and coworkers and comrades in the industry. Those are super fun. And then, I talked about the AI work. That's super exciting to me. As I told you earlier, I'm a nerd and a techie, and I love all things tech. So this AI stuff is super cool, and I'm definitely gonna be paying attention to that.
All right, awesome. Well, listen, great to see you. This has been awesome. Appreciate you taking some time. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
Everyone, if you are interested in our short form interviews like this one, you can find Data Unmasked and We Are ACEDS live, streaming on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook in your feeds, or check out the ACEDS YouTube channel where you can watch previous interviews. Adam, thanks for joining us today. Thanks everyone for listening in. Have a great day, everyone, and be kind to one another.